See, every day, even this week, I was reminded of some things, and the Lord just had me repenting. And as you grow with Him, it may not be things you do, but it may be attitudes. It may be thoughts that you spend too much time on that take you away from Him. And even this week, I had to spend some time before God and say, make me put you first. Help me put you first in all things. Help me fight off even mental distractions. Help me fight off spiritual laziness, oh God. Help me fight off stagnancy, oh God. Let me not even waste time. Help me fight off procrastination, that you would be the center of my world and that my being would be before your throne. Because I'm still growing, y'all. I'm still dependent on Him. I thought 20 years ago that by now, if that my growth in Christ would result in me not needing people anymore. But you know what I learned? Growth in Christ is not like growth in the corporate world. Growth in the corporate world, you become more independent and you become less dependent on people because you're the man at the top. You got more power. You got more resources. But growth in Christ and maturity in Christ makes you more interdependent, because growth in Christ, the Lord will lead you through certain situations as you're growing in sonship where you find that you need Him more. Just like Isaiah was a prophetic voice. He spoke to the nations. He worked in the gifts of the Spirit. He saw visions. He understood dreams. But guess what? In Isaiah chapter 6, he saw something in himself and he said, Lord, purify my tongue. With all his gifting, with all his influence, with all of his experiences, all of his spiritual power, he saw something in him that caused him, said, God, Lord, purify my tongue. And a seraphim brought down a coal of fire and laid it on his tongue and purified his tongue. This is where we should be in sonship. We should be asking God to purify our tongue so that we think different. And then when we have our thoughts growing, we speak difference. Life and death is in the power of the tongue, and those who love this fruit will eat from it. So as He purifies us and we grow closer to Him, He cleanses us and we surrender through a refiner's process. I found out one time that during the time of Solomon, he had many wives. And whenever those wives were brought from different nations, they couldn't just marry Solomon. They actually had to go through a cleansing process. Before a woman from Cush or Syria or Tarshish could become a princess of Solomon, they had to fast because they had to get the toxins from their country out of their body. They had to learn his language. They had to learn Hebrew because they had to be able to communicate with him. They had to go through a process where they would squeeze out the toxins out of the pores of their skin, because when they became his wife, they had to be able to fit into his atmosphere. The same thing goes on with us who desire sonship. And when I say sonship, I'm not just talking about males. I'm talking about sons and daughters. There's a difference between a child of God and a son and daughter. A child is an adolescence. They're not grown to maturity. But a son and daughter begins to take on responsibilities. And in order to become a son and daughter, we have to be willing to go through a process of detoxing the attitudes that we have from the world, detoxing our language. Sometimes we come with a language that's not godly. It may contain profanity, or it may speak in an anti-faith dialect. Sometimes we're used to speaking negatively, right? So sons and daughters are those who are moving on to maturity, who say, press out the toxins out of my skin, change my language. I'm willing to detox and fast before you. Sometimes you got to fast the TV out to become a son and a daughter. Sometimes you got to fast the music out, right? Because it has us on a theme. We have a worldly theme music that influences our soul. Okay. All right. So let's talk about maturity.